I can't understand how, like, you know, in an NFL where the quarterback is in contact with the coach, I can't understand why that hasn't already happened in hurling. I guess
like a hurler.
The GAA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the money back special.
And when I started running, I suppose I didn't stop, and when I got the chance to go on, I said I should go on, so I opened up.
We're only the small little fish out there, so we are on there.
Michael Carton, Brendan Bugler, welcome to the show.
Thanks, really good to be here.
Bugs, you've obviously been demoted from the Sunday game, so now you're on the GAA.
Exactly, yeah. It's a bit of a downer down to being here, but you're looking.
I know how it feels.
Paddy Power underpants.
I know how it feels. I once had a debut on the Sunday game, never to be asked back, Bugs. So like, I feel your pain here.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were laughing at, Michael, because like, I mean, I didn't want to ring you on Monday on Monday's show, because I thought really you dragged the mood of what was a celebratory podcast on Monday.
I wouldn't have came, Willie, no way.
What's the fallout been like in Dublin?
I was sick afterwards, really. Like, it's a game that's haunted Dublin, not just this year, but throughout the years. The favourites tag, just don't know how to deal with it properly. Like 2010, after beating Clare, Antrim did the same thing to us, and it's a psychological thing. Like 17 wides, and I just don't think the lads were. Like, they were beaten all over the pitch and beaten physically. And
but when are they going to fix this psychological thing? Like, I mean, because how many managers have they had, and how many times has this been an issue?
Yeah.
We know how much of the game is psychological, so surely that all the talking in the lead up to that game, lads, we know this is a weakness. We know Laois are good. Let's be up for this. And they weren't up for it. The same mistakes again.
No, Matty Kenny, like, from listening to the lads, like, he would analyse absolutely everything. He would have had them ready, like, you would have think. And speaking to the lads, they were ready to go, but obviously they weren't when the whistle went. But you have to be winning these games as favourites, and they're not favourites because they're not winning enough games to have that tag all the time. So unfortunately, the so-called weaker counties have no fear of Dublin whatsoever, and they shouldn't, because they've caught us on the hop a few times now.
Yeah.
You never see Kilkenny tip Cork being caught ever by these teams, you know, and you see more Cork into Westmeath, and there's not much between Westmeath and Laois. We've seen that throughout the year. So it is a mental thing, but I don't know how you break it down, because you have to have the favourites tag and get used to be playing as favourites, and Dublin just aren't at the moment.
Yeah. How do you fix that, Bugs?
I don't know, Willie, really. Like, I suppose after I heard the result, I was above in a hinge, and I was watching the final round of the golf when the result came in, like, and I straight away, just what Mick said there, I thought back to 2010, you know. Dublin were after playing us, and, you know, they beat us by, I think, 10 plus points, you know, and I suppose at that stage we would have been seen maybe as a bigger team, you know, and then a week later they go out in the loose tantrum, like, so, you know, you would have expected, considering they had a 3-week run into, you know, Laois was just after winning the Joe McDonough, and they were playing within 6 days, you would have expected Dublin to win, but again, I suppose the old failings came back again, and I don't know what it is, Willie. I don't know. Look, you can count your 17 wides, you can count this, that and the other, but at the end of the day, it just looked like, from watching the highlights and from looking at Buff Egan and his Snapchat story, that Laois just seemed to want it more, and I suppose it's a pity, and I suppose there's an awful lot of Dublin players that are going to have an awful lot of regrets this week.
And like, I mean, Laois had 12 wides. We were talking about that, so it's not like, you know, Laois didn't hit a wide. Like, I mean, Laois did win. Laois won the game. The problem is 1 to 12 Dublin are a match for anyone, and this is, I know they want to break it down, because this is what everyone says. They don't have a Patrick Horgan. They don't have someone who can get that 7 points that's going to destroy the Laois full back line, and that's going to be a problem for Dublin no matter where they go, because they don't have that incredible forward.
No, and I was just thinking to myself today, Willie, the club hurling championship, Dublin have picked the best players in the county. Like, there's no player out there that they haven't got on their team, so you can't say, oh, he's not playing for them. So I don't know where he's going to come from, this Patrick Horgan, because they haven't got a forward that performs consistently all the time. And you're right, it's where they fall down, but I don't know how to fix it, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I tell you, Matty Kenny will go hunting down like Colm Cronin. He wasn't there this year. He's a huge player. And
but another good middle
again,
third player.
He's not exactly. He's a half forward up, and he's a workhorse, but he's not going to be that clinical forward. Like, I was hoping Trollier would turn into that, because he's a great finisher, but you just can't get that consistent performance out of him all the time, you know. And
Who's Trollier? Eamon Dillon?
Eamon Dillon, yeah. Like, you smash him forward and you take fellas on all the time, but
he's a support forward. Exactly. He's a support player.
He's just too hit and miss at the moment. We want him being scoring goals all the time and being that consistent performer, and just haven't got it with Dublin. So I don't know how to fix it, because they're not within the county.
Not every team is going to have a Patrick Horgan.
No, but just as an example, you've John Conlon for. You need a talisman, you know. And when Conlon wasn't on form this year, Clare weren't. You need a talisman. You need someone, and to the point where they ended up putting Tony Kelly in the full forward line. You
Yeah,
know, that's
it
how
paid dividends
important
at the end,
it
like,
did.
yeah,
And he
yeah,
looked good
you
in
do.
there, and that's food for thought for Clare, right?
It is, yeah. I suppose look at every team are looking for that. I suppose that special player that's going to rack up 10 to 12 points, but they're just so hard to find nowadays. And Cork are blessed with the likes of Patrick Horgan, but Limerick don't have a player like that really as well.
Galan kind of has stepped up.
Galan, yeah, but I suppose this year he's really stepped up to the mark. But still, like, are you going to be guaranteed 7 or 8 points from Aaron Galan? I don't think you are. Like, while with Patrick Horgan, it's nearly. It's a box tick straight away before the game even starts. Like, so they're just they're a rare breed.
Yeah. Danny Sutcliffe is that talisman for Dublin. He's a smashing hurler, but his problem, he comes so deep to get the ball. He tries to win every puck out, and by the time you get it, then you can't finish it because you're doing so much work to get on that ball, and you're so far out the pitch. I'd love to see him in the full forward line because he would do damage. But I don't think Dublin would lose out too much because they wouldn't have that ball winner in the half forward line.
Right.
So they're saying the same thing with Clare and with Tony as well.
Yeah,
We'd love to see him inside, but then is the ball going to go into him? And you see that the work that Tony does out the field is absolutely savage. Yeah. But teams sometimes just like Tip did, put Brendan Bugler on him and just kind of marked him around the middle, and that's just the way it is.
Make the difference. So Dublin were obviously missing Rush and O'Donnell. Like there's talk they were minding Mark O'Donnell or missing Mark Schutte too, but you didn't have him all year anyways, did they?
No, so you wouldn't.
So he'll improve them a lot. But there was talk O'Donnell was being rested with Tipperary in mind. Now he didn't come on at all, so I don't know if there's any truth to that.
No, I just don't think he was ready for the game. Speaking to the lads, I don't think there was any minding him or anything. He just wasn't ready for that game. He was a week away from being ready. So,
but why name him the 26th then?
I know
that's the problem. Like it's to me, it was a clear sign that they were taking Laois for granted.
Yeah.
I can't see it any other way. If a player isn't ready, if he's not going to see any action, why name him in the 26th? To me, it made no sense whatsoever.
See, that's the thing, lads. And you can kind of see it from Dublin's point of view because, we all had these games, and maybe not with Laois because Laois would have been underdogs in a lot of games. With Port Laois, you're saying all the right things. Your manager's saying all the right things. You're still going home going, geez, we should be beating these lads. So you're not as clued in no matter what. It's a subconscious thing, and you try to fight against it. And then, of course, all the pictures come out of Laois on the beer after the Joe McDonagh, rightly so. And then we hear during the week that they went drinking on the Monday as well. Yeah. So Dublin are hearing this. Now, this is seeping in there again, and then it's like the 7-day turnaround. They're on the beer. No matter how you say, lads, we're under pressure, we could lose this. Players are human beings, and they're still going home, going to bed, going, we'll take care of this.
Yeah. I think we have to define what on the beer is though. It's to me, I'd say they probably went there. There a couple of bottles, maybe a few of them might have had a couple of pints.
Sunday night was a late one.
Was it?
Oh yeah, make no mistake about that. I don't want to say, but I
know no names.
If you have a late one. Now Monday they watched the match together and had a few beers. But still, that's not.
But what is a late one? Like, did they? Every group has the guys who have the couple of pints, and then you have the few guys who might enjoy a cigarette, and then within 20 minutes they've nearly a box gone, and then it's tabak kebab, and then it's to the the doner kebab. That's where the real problems start.
Casino and lose all your weight.
Exactly. Yeah, and wake up the following morning, the fry up straight away. It's like it's like literally when you're knocked out with the championship. It's what you do. Like
No,
that's where the problems are.
Well, I would say definitely nightclub. Definitely a few smokes were had. Definitely fast food was had.
Is this gospel?
There could have been drinks ordered to a hotel room at a late hour.
Inside track.
But the point I'm making is, I know you hear all these things, but look, it's all grand to talk about it when they won. But the point I'm making is that we talk all about preparation. We talk all about, what to do, not to do with your body. So Laois didn't do what's told to do with their bodies, right? There's no doubt about that. But the benefit of them going out and celebrating a win and getting closer together and have a huge team bond and a massive, we're in this together, we're closer, we're like brothers, we won together, we celebrated together. All those intangibles outweighed the potential negative side of your body, which by Thursday, for any young fit fella, you're back to normal physically, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
so I think there is a fear. And again, confidence, momentum, all these things supersede having a few pints. And it's not talked about enough.
Yeah, I'm delighted with it. I've never been one to live like a saint. I loved my hurling, but I also loved the nights out and the crack we had with the team. And they're some of my greatest memories in my career. I'm delighted what Eddie Brennan's done with Laois. He's not hiding the fact they're going for points. It's on public media. You see it with Buff and they're all drinking on the bus and having a bit of crack. It's like the happy wife, happy life thing. He's keeping his players happy, and you can see it in them. They're expressing themselves on the pitch. When teams are all tense and they're a happy bunch. They're showing it on the pitch. They're going out with zero fear of anybody. They won't. I think it's going to change on Sunday with Tip, because I think it's a mentality thing again. They didn't fear Dublin like us. We were playing a charity match in Laois. Speaking to all the Laois lads, no fear of Dublin whatsoever, and they're right, because you could catch them on the hop. I don't think the same will happen against Tip. I think it will creep into players' minds it's Tip, and I think Tip would be more clinical and they get goals early and finish the game off. Because there's a reason why the teams fear the bigger teams, because they don't lose to the lower. The lower team. You know, like, so
we'll talk about that in part two. Like, I mean, but no, you're definitely right. But like, I mean, the thing I was wondering about, and you talk about the Buff Egan stuff and Eddie Brennan's relaxed attitude at a top county. The pressure is too high, maybe, to allow that to happen, Bugs, because if you lose. Yeah, do you know what I mean? The knives are out big time for going for these few points after a match.
Yeah, like, let's be realistic as well. This could be the biggest moment in those, Laois players'
well, winning
careers.
in Croke Park had to be celebrated. Yeah,
it had to be celebrated, and to get to a quarter final. When was the last time they were in a quarter final? I forget what year it was, but it could be. Even though I don't think it will be. I think next year and the year after we will see one or two surprises as well with this, because they're a young bunch and they have that togetherness now that is so important in any setup. Like, so, if you can't go out, if you can't have a few pints the night of possibly the biggest night of your hurling career. Then what's the point, Willie? It just makes no sense whatsoever. No. But look, compare their situation to the likes of the Westmeath situation. Westmeath were after losing. I'm sure they went out probably and had a couple of points. But when you have a few points and you're still high as a kite, and you're taking that momentum into the week after, it's not going to make much of a difference.
That's the thing. But that's the whole thing. Westmeath didn't have confidence, momentum. Laois did. I think that this is so important. We see teams coming through the qualifiers, and I sometimes think, well, you can't put it all down to confidence, because anyone could analyse a game like that. But they're massive. They're absolutely massive to the whole momentum thing. Michael Carton told us a story here on the show about the 2012 qualifier, Bugs, where he beat them with 14 men. It was Dalo's return to Ennis. And I thought the great part of the story was that they walked through the town.
We spoke about it last year night, actually.
Did we speak about the last time you were here?
For a cocky, wasn't it?
My God.
Our home patch. Yeah. Eggs thrown at him on the way down the hole.
But come here, is Dalo in frame for 2020, or are the two fellas going to stand down, or what's the talk in Clare?
I literally, there's no talk.
They were in there last year, though, right? They only took one more year because the players they got so close last year, so
they are, yeah, but like
they'd have to go looking for another one, or no?
That's the thing. Like, look at Dalo's name has been mentioned, and I suppose look at everyone's mentioning Fitzy's name as well. Like, but like you can't go saying okay, it's time for a change yet until you kind of know what will be in place. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I think you just need to sit down, I suppose, with the county board and discuss out a couple of things. And look, it's a giant management ship, I suppose, as it is. Maybe one of them might want to stay on, maybe one of them might want to go, and there might be a whole different dynamic then if one of them stayed on, Donald or Jerry, I'm not sure which. But like, just throwing out that there should be a change in Clare management, I think you can't jump to that conclusion, without actually figuring out if that was the case, maybe who would be next in line. And I don't know what Dalo wanted. Maybe he really does want it, but he's not saying anything. I'm
not saying there should be a change, by the way. I'm just thinking that the two lads might step down because I think they're busy in their careers, right? And if they did that, because they only looked for 2 years, then they extended it a year, and then I'm thinking, right, after the way the year went, that they might say that they have enough rather than.
Yeah, I think they deserve the respect, Willie, too.
I think so too.
To make up. I want to make up their mind, really. I think they don't know what they want themselves yet. Right. They need to sit down. They need to, I suppose, discuss it with players first and foremost to see what's players' attitude in the whole thing.
Just
what's
their thoughts. There's not a players' meeting.
Well, I don't think they'll be acting like that now or anything. But we have to be very respectful of what they've done for Clare hurling. From minor to 21, and we're within a whisker of getting to an All Ireland final last year and could have easily won the All Ireland. So. It just goes to show that this year with Clare, you have to bring the cutting edge every single day you go out, and we didn't bring it for 2 days. But against Cork, we were absolutely heroic. And it's just a pity from Clare point of view, we didn't bring it the 2 days before.
As an outsider, it's definitely seemed that this is the last year. Like either one or the management was gone. There's that feeling.
That's
all
how
year.
I felt.
It's the same. Like
not really in Clare now.
No,
it's not. No.
Okay,
but time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, come here. I want to ask you about this Wexford man behind the goals. So this was spotted by Derek McGrath in the Irish Examiner, and he said, I noticed Mark Fanning in conversation with someone behind his goal in the Davin stand end. It was intriguing to watch this member of Davies' backroom team perch right in front of the 5 yards, right in the front row, 5 yards from Fanning's goal, clearly instructing Fanning regarding the puck-out policy. So he's saying obviously he's wired to Saoirse Bulfin, Keith Rossiter and JJ Doyle, with the lead direction coming from Davy himself. The early instruction to go along clearly paid dividend, while clearly planned was open to improvisation. So he had pictures to accompany this, so you could see him. He moved from the Davin end down to the hill, the other end in the second half. Now, I'd never really thought about this before. So he's wired up. Davy sits in the stand, right? Yeah. So Davy was Davy in the stand for that match?
I don't think so.
No.
Usually he does. So say if he's perched in the stand and he's watching usually for the first half until his blood starts going, and then he has to come down and lose the mind until the referee gives one decision against him. But like, I mean, this. So if you've got a perch high up and you see where a puck out could go or where there's an extra player, and look, I know everyone can see, but for a goalkeeper looking all the way out there, maybe
a lot of bodies in front of you.
A lot of bodies in front of you. So Davy's saying, right, well, I want him to go according to Conor McDonald, because we have a little bit of movement in around him. We've 3 bodies over, and this lad's relaying this. I didn't realise this was a level that had gone to, Bugs, or is this a trick of Davy's for a while?
I can't understand how, like, you know, in an NFL, where the quarterback is in contact with the coach, I can't understand why that hasn't already happened in hurling. I guess
like a hurler. Is there a rule to say a hurler couldn't be wired up?
Have some sort of headset.
I don't know.
Goalkeepers.
I don't think anyone's ever tried it. Yeah, I don't.
I can see going to that level, like, because for me it makes perfect sense. If you're a keeper, it's hard to see what's directly. You can see a lot, but you can't see everything what's directly in front of you. Yeah. So it makes perfect sense, and it's a classic kind of Dave Fitzgerald type of, I suppose, tactic or whatever you want to call it, like, you know.
He's thinking outside the box.
He's thinking outside the box,
Davy,
and he can see, you know, in challenge games, it can. And from my time with Davy, like, it would be very, very, you know, you could hear him a mile away, and he'd always be giving instructions, whether Pat Kelly was in goals or Andy Fahey or Donald Toohey, he'd always be giving instructions. But when you're in Croke Park, you can't hear Davy Fitz, you know. So
and that pisses Davy off.
Yeah, that pisses Davy off, you know, because he might want to puck out to go one direction, but obviously he can't get the message to Fanning. But it was well spotted now, in fairness, you know.
It was very well spotted by Darren. Yeah. And like, even the new tactics now, and Clare do it a lot and Limerick do it a lot. You see a Limerick forward getting a score, he doesn't say yes, he puts his hurley up and guts half back. They all drop half a line back. So I'd imagine now that they're all going zonal off puckouts, for a goalkeeper to look out, the targets are very small, you know.
Absolutely.
So like, I mean, getting that little bit of advice from somebody who's wired up might not be bad.
Absolutely, especially from the higher standpoint, Willie. Like, you can see throughout the pitch and see movement that, as Brent said, it's tough for goalkeepers to get up to see that pitch. You're not taking the initiative away from them altogether, because they will spot a half back every so often, or a corner back. But like, if you can get 3 puckouts in a game, or 4 puckouts up to a half forward or full forward, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah,
it's like, why wouldn't managers use it? You know.
But it will be very interesting to see, would they be wired up? You couldn't see an outfield player doing it because he'd be running around too much, maybe.
Yeah,
but a goalkeeper,
why not? Like,
a goalkeeper.
Definitely.
You couldn't have us mic'd up now like the NFL, because there'd be something said. Like the NFL, they're mic'd up for the game. You can hear like them speaking throughout the players. The players all talk.
It could be one-on-one contact.
Yeah, but like, imagine that in the hurling, the language being used.
Just the one way Michael relax.
You hear every hurling maker now.
But that was an argument for that referees should be mic'd up like the rugby, so you can hear. And then I was thinking, like, Gaelic footballers and hurlers are amateur, and if you did say something in the heat of the moment, like, you know, you just, like, I don't know, rude or like a curse word, would you go into work the next day feeling embarrassed because you said something stupid? You referee, you know.
And it happens the whole time.
I think,
let's call a spade a spade, like in the GAA. Like, we're all, no one's a saint in the field, really, like, you know.
No, exactly. So. Right, listen, we're talking about 6 teams in Leinster now after Laois did so well. So this is a no-brainer. Cheddar's always on about it. Bonner, the Carlow manager, was on about it this year. Colm Bonner, isn't it? He was on about it this year too. This changes nothing in Leinster. So instead of the idle week, you just have an extra team in it. So it's not making it any longer. It just means that there's even teams. So because Laois have gone so well, Leinster chairman Jim Bulger was saying, we have a Leinster council meeting next week and we'll discuss it at that. I suppose in one respect, if you have 6 teams, it's ran off the same time frame, it's the same for everybody. This hasn't come up today or yesterday. I even mentioned looking at having 2 groups of 4 at one stage, because we're looking at Carlow, Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. We felt they'd close the gap to a level that allowed us to look at that option. I find this gas, right? Because no one's ever happy in the GAA, right? So for me, Laois winning the Joe McDonagh Cup. Now, while I want Laois in Leinster, Laois winning the Joe McDonagh Cup, getting out of that and then beating Dublin in the All-Ireland series would be proof that the Joe McDonagh Cup really works. Yeah. So now they want to make the Joe McDonagh Cup weaker by making the Leinster different. And like, would it not be a case to say, Jesus, isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
Now, I do take the point that you probably know that the week off is a bit of a pain in the arse. You just finished just before this new Munster League.
Yeah.
That making 6 teams would be better.
Definitely, like.
But is it not a case that just leave the Joe McDonagh Cup alone?
I'm a fan of the tier system, without a shadow of a doubt. Look, you see it all, throughout the country. In club level, you see, senior, intermediate, and junior. Like, to me, it is a success. But I think whoever wins the Joe McDonagh should have a minimum of 2 years in the McCarthy Cup if they're looking to build. That's where I see the problem at the moment. But definitely, look at what you call that guy that came out and said that?
Jim Bulger.
Jim Bulger. Like, to me, it kind of shows a kind of a lack of respect for the Joe McDonagh Cup. The fact he's only saying it now that Laois went on and beat Dublin. It's a little bit.
And John Horan said this. John Horan said this. He said, John Horan says that this was a tweet from Will O'Callaghan. He says, John Horan says they wouldn't have even considered 6 teams in Leinster before last week, but now see it as a runner.
He's coming out with
some bangers.
Oh, he really is.
Where's the thought process?
Yeah. Or where's the
flooding it with 8 teams then and destroying the Joe McDonagh?
The Joe McDonagh would be gone. Kerry would be gone.
Absolutely.
That would be really unfair to Kerry to completely do away with the Joe McDonagh.
Yeah, it's a joke. Like, as you say, Laois win one game and all of a sudden he notices the gap has closed between all the teams. It's lazy. It's lazy.
I think Carlow proved this year that the gap is closing slightly. They competed fairly well in it.
And as you say, if you go up one year and come down the next year, it doesn't benefit anyone really, So the thing of winning Joe McDonagh, maybe staying up for 2 years, is definitely a plausible idea. Absolutely, because you need it to play against the top teams and see how you get on. And I don't know. There's no quick answer, but I definitely don't agree with the 8 teams coming into Leinster. I think that's a non-runner. It would destroy the Joe McDonagh Cup.
I know, it totally would, right? Yeah. But again, it's an example of people not being happy in the GAA. I'll give you another example of it. So Cork fans aren't happy this weekend. So they're giving out shite that they have to pay 25 quid to go to watch their footballers on Saturday and then 40 to watch their hurlers on Sunday. Now, John Horan obviously said when you talk about the Cork supporter, the football supporter will be a different cohort to the hurling supporter, completely ignoring the fact that there's any dual fans whatsoever in Cork. Now, I said on the football show, Cork support for the footballers isn't good. And to travel to Dublin is even worse, right? So, you would take a little bit with their complaints with a pinch of salt. But the point of the matter is, what's the solution to this? What do Cork want to make them happy? They want Kilkenny and Cork on a double header. But then you've Laois and Tip as a standalone with no one in Croke Park. And do Laois deserve that in the All-Ireland quarter final? Do Tipperary deserve that? No, the double header is the hurling.
Absolutely.
So unfortunately,
why couldn't they play 3 games?
Well, I think John Horan was saying 3 is too many.
Well,
is there a minor game?
Kilkenny minor game before the Kilkenny
Right,
Cork
so
game,
that's the 3, right?
Yeah,
okay, so the only solution would have been 3. But another solution is, I was saying even, there's been occasions with Laois hurlers and footballers where they've been playing nearly at the same time. So like Cork have the same. So Cork have the option of watching both teams. It's just inconvenient for them. And the solution is to completely inconvenience Tip and Laois. So that no matter what happens in the GAA, someone's going to be complaining, and when someone starts complaining, loads of people jump in on it because they love kicking the GAA. John Horan doesn't help himself down by saying something stupid, and here we have a controversy where instead of just going Cork,
that's the Corkness coming through now, isn't it?
Yeah, they deserve more. So you have Cork, and then
should be in the real capital.
This is the best line of all, and I said this in the football show. It's incredible from John Horan, and we know he's a true blue dove, and he can't hide it a lot of time. He says there'll always be an appetite to have a game on a Saturday night, and a Dublin game is generally on a Saturday night. So he's basically spelling out that's the really good time for supporters and teams. But we know Dublin are on that time, so there's nothing else to see here. It's beyond belief how this fella gets.
Sometimes as a Dublin supporter, you're reading things he says, going, "Oh, you're doing us no favours whatsoever." Like,
how does he know self-awareness?
He's just alienating Dublin, completely.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, he's the president. You think he'd have more?
He needs to be more objective. You see, he was over Dublin minor football team, a selector, so he is a true blue dub. Like, he's immersed in it. Yeah. But I do think that he panders to the Dublin fans that he meets, and he doesn't want to be seen as not being on their side. But a GAA president can't be like that. It's mad.
No, but I think there is an air of correctness to what he is saying there in relation to there probably is a cohort of Cork football fans and there's a cohort of Cork hurling fans. And the dual aspect, I don't think, be as many people as we think,
I think there would be if you're playing in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but I do think John
Croke
Horan going to Croke Park football. Cork fans don't have an interest in coming to Croke Park to support the footballers. They'll travel for their hurlers. So there is, I think that he's been hammered on the dual thing a bit, maybe too much.
So,
it's probably a silly thing to say on a county if you don't know the total ins and outs. But wait and you see how many Cork fans are in Croke Park Saturday night. But then, of course, they'll use the hurling as the excuse.
Yeah.
But they don't come to Croke Park to support the footballers. Traditionally, they just don't. Not for anything outside of a really big game.
Been there in a while as well, so.
Yeah. And
maybe,
it's not a game they're likely to win either. So
this is a storm in a teacup, basically.
Exactly,
yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. But a great point. Going back to your point, it's a great point. It would have been a pure disrespect to Laois and to Tipperary, to have their game a standalone fixture, So
Lark
that's
the big wants thing it in O'Moore Park.
He wants
Lark Corbett wants it back in O'Moore Park.
He was saying that on our other show,
the
big build-up. But at the same time, I can see what Lar means there. But he means well. But he's so wrong. Laois got their big game in O'Moore Park. They won it. Now they want the glamour double header, Croke Park,
2 3 weeks,
Kilkenny, Cork as the curtain raiser for them. Imagine taking that off them. It would be mad to stick them in O'Moore Park. Lar's intentions were good, but he picked the wrong argument there, I think.
But Willie, he's of a mindset of he can't have a mindset of a Laois hurler because he's from a stronghold.
Yeah.
He can play in Croke Park whenever he wants. He can play there every year.
Yeah.
He doesn't realise how much it means
to
have a chance to play in Croke Park as a Laois man.
Yeah, and
someone said in an All-Ireland quarter-final, it means everything.
Someone said to me on Twitter he wants to save on the diesel as well. Larry doesn't have to go the whole way. So I just want to finish up with this. So Paddy Power have had to come out and apologise to Laois fans. So a big controversy last week, and there was a load of screenshots going on about this. So they had odds for Dublin versus Tip in the All-Ireland quarter-final. So Paddy Power have released a statement and said, we're happy to pay the price for underestimating Eddie Brennan's boys, so we're giving a free €10 bet to our online customers who were brave enough to back them last weekend. So fair enough. Given that there's a 98.9% probability that Tip will beat them in Croke Park this Sunday, I wouldn't back them with someone else's money. Who's saying this? So we decided to give loyal Laois fans that option. So fair play to Paddy Power. They've given back the €10 bet for all the Laois fans that were given out. I'd say the majority of them didn't back it anyway. And funnily enough, on their website now, they have odds for Laois Wexford All-Ireland semi-final. Have you noticed that? Well, they do.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, they're cheeky pups, Paddy Power. All right, we'll come back and we'll analyse Cork Kilkenny first. Okay, so Kilkenny Cork, lads. This is a huge game between two rivals where the rivalry spilled over a little bit in the noughties, but it's kind of two new teams at this stage. And I think I was reading a stat, in the last 15 times League and Championship, Kilkenny have won 11 of those. So while Cork back in 04 or 05 or 5 or 6, when was the 2 years Cork won? 5 or 6. Oh. They won 2 All-Irelands in a row and beat Kilkenny in one of them. They were a match for them. There haven't been a match recently, but they're going into this game as favourites. So it's a weird kind of one. The last time they played Kilkenny, I think was 4. Yeah, it was a 13.
Jimmy Barry Murphy.
And they haven't played them since. So
Bob Dylan was in town the same weekend as well.
That was in Thurles. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. And but this is a totally different Kilkenny now. This is not the fear factor Kilkenny. So what Cork need to do obviously is get that Kilkenny out of their heads and realise Kilkenny are just another team. Is that fair?
Yeah, for me, Willie, I don't know if Bugs agree. With Cork, they're an outstanding skillful team. They're pacey. I always thought they just lacked that bit of metal, especially that Kilkenny have in them big games, and that's what got Kilkenny over the line an awful lot. This time round, if I was Cork, this is such a big game this weekend. I fancy Cork I was really disappointed with Kilkenny against Wexford. Thought they lacked that direction. You never seen Kilkenny panic in the last 5-10 minutes of a game, and they did that there. And if you stop TJ scoring, I think they really struggled to get scores around the pitch. So this is a chance that Cork should really grab and throw it into Kilkenny, and they have the forwards up there to beat them, and they know that.
Yeah.
So
this will be a different game, though. Kilkenny don't like those games Wexford kind of bring. They're disorganised games, Bugs, where
congestion around
it's
the
just
middle,
so congested. You don't know whether you're coming or going. It's an awful battle. You're dragged down. This will be a totally different game, right? This will be a shootout, pretty much, won't it? Pretty
much, I think. Yeah, look at Cork. We all know their firepower they have up front. It's absolutely phenomenal. Their front six and their 2 midfielders are they're exceptional hurlers. But they have a vulnerability at the back. But I still think they have enough to get over Kilkenny. I think Kilkenny are just relying too much on the likes of TJ Reid. Now Cork did move Owen Cadigan out centre back for the second half against Westmeath, and I think that was maybe applied to thinking of a week later, maybe that'd be some battle between the two of those boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Cork, there are still massive question marks over their full back line, and it's been the same, for the last 2 years. But I just think they probably have enough, up front. I think it will be shootout. I think it will be really, really high scoring. But, Cork have just to get their matchups right. From a Kilkenny point of view, they need the Finleys in the game a hell of a lot more. Adrian Mullen, in fairness to him, he stepped up to the mark, and he's a top quality player. Will Killian Buckley be back as well? I think they need him, and they need him going well.
He must have something must have happened with him. I know he wasn't good against Wexford that day, but he didn't even feature off the bench the last day.
Surprisingly enough, yeah.
Yeah, so it was an interesting one. But obviously, the big change I thought against Westmeath was Fitzgibbon's gone to 11 and Tim O'Mahony's gone to midfield. So apparently Tim O'Mahony was outstanding. The funny thing about Tim O'Mahony, and I'm a Tim O'Mahony fan, but he's neither a forward nor a back. So maybe midfield is just right. You know what I mean? Because he is a very good player. Maybe he doesn't have the discipline to be a forward or to be a centre back, which he didn't. He was a bit all over the place, didn't know whether to hold or whether to go. And as a forward, he's not. Cork have an abundance of forwards, so is maybe midfield a position he could make his own? Maybe,
yeah. Like he plays midfield in the forwards with his club, Newtown Chandram, and he's often hit great scores there. Like so, maybe it is. Now I can't say I didn't watch the game, so I don't know how he performed. Like, but he is a really, really good player. But for whatever reason, when it came to the big games, centre back, he just didn't command the position enough. And for a centre back, I think Ellis just commands a little bit more, and he has a little bit more, I suppose, experience to communicate with his midfielders and his two half backs as well beside him. But he is a really, really good player, and I have no doubt he'll have a massive future with Cork in the years ahead. Fitzgibbon centre forward, I don't know, are Cork going to revert back to type, and put him back out in the middle of the field for this game? Maybe they seen the Wexmeath game as maybe a little bit of experimentation. I don't know, but
because Fitzgibbon can obviously score, we know that, but they're not lacking scorers because they've Lehan and or Kingston back on the two wings. Do you need Fitzgibbon there as another scorer? Like, what's the balance there? Like, I mean, Fitzgibbon's one of his big strong points is carrying the ball from the half back line up, unless he's going to play as a deep lying centre forward, and you're pretty much out there when you're playing that role anyways, right?
But if you think back to the Munster final last year, Willie, Clare were well on top of Cork in the first half, and the switch that turned the game was putting
him wing
Fitzgibbon
forward or centre forward.
And in fairness, that was the switch that turned the game. And in my opinion, won it for Cork.
He got some astounding. I think
he
got
brilliant.
3, did he, from the second half?
He dragged the Clare half back line all over the place. And he brings that, and I think his spatial awareness is real quality as well.
So that's the thing. So obviously you're going to have that decision whether to follow him into midfield. Like all the good teams have this brilliant centre forward that you don't know what, you've got that conundrum of as a centre back. Jesus, lads, that forward line though: Lehan, Fitzgibbon, Kingston, Cadigan, Horgan, Harnedy. You're talking about
scores. Every one of them are scorers.
Everyone are scorers, but these marquee forwards, that Dublin ones, you've nearly got 6 of them there from Cork on their own.
You're talking about man markers, Willie. It doesn't exist for against Cork.
No,
you can't have 6 man markers. Especially as a half back, you want to go up and hurl your own ball, and it's so difficult against Cork because you can't leave them for a minute. I always found them a very tough team to play against because their movement across the pitch is non-stop, and you can't really mind your own position because you're constantly keeping an eye on them. You can't let them go for a minute, and the pace of the forward line as well. I think it really, really hurt that Kilkenny back line.
I think they're really going to hurt them because this is the thing. Kingston, Fitzgibbon, Lehan, if they drop that bit of midfield, you can't just let them go. No. Can you, Bugs? As a wing back, can you say, right, well, I'll leave Lehan on?
No.
You can't do that. You have to go with him. Now you're leaving loads of space behind you, and then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, it's a catch-22, Willie. Like, you literally have to rely on your own half forwards to drop back and to cover them as well. You have to keep your shape as a half back line, because if you shove out the field and you're going to leave an acre space in front of the Cadigan and Horgan inside, it's a tough one.
So which is more dangerous, letting Lehan off or leaving space for Cadigan?
I think your own full forward line have to drop, your own half forward line have to drop out, and we could call it the battle zone, and that's what's been called, I suppose. In the last year, it's really become known as the battle zone, and that's where games are won and lost nowadays. But you have to hold your shape, but at the same time, you look at the Limerick game. Jimmer Burns, let Kearney off out, and he scored 4 points outside there, and I think the Limerick management were looking at that and they were saying, okay, right, should our half forward line have worked a little bit more hard,
well, Burns got dropped for that.
Burns got dropped for that, he didn't do a hell of a lot wrong.
No, because Burns, that's not the only game Burns does. Burns and Hannon are the two that drop. Dan McCormack might follow, but I've seen Burns in the league final against Waterford just completely holding the half backline. So it was interesting to see him being dropped for what was clearly kind of a Limerick tactic, wasn't it? Yeah. But like, I mean, and I do take it, but if you look at Limerick when their half back line does it, look at their half forward line. Does Kilkenny have a forward line that's going to work like that? You don't want TJ back picking these lads up. Like, that's not going to ruin his game. Is Walter Walsh going to do that? Is Lahey might try and do that? I'm not sure Kilkenny have the half forward line to help out. And you don't want class players doing that. Like, Limerick are just lucky and they've 3 freaky half forward line physical that want to work like that and that can score as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, but number one, I don't think Walter is fit enough at the moment.
No. He's not playing well. No,
he's not playing well. You know, definitely not to his standards anyway. But I don't think he's fit enough to play that role of getting back and up the field like that. You know, Garrod Hegarty is an absolute machine at the moment. You know, and playing that role down to a T. So Kilkenny, I think Richie Lee, they might see him as that sort of role, but then he doesn't offer the physicality side of it. Like, he's Mullen, more of a, you know, and Mullen is just new to the scene as well. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, definitely. One feature of Cork's play is the ball they obviously give inside. Their movement, number one. They nearly have the movement of a football team because they almost play short passes like a football team. Yeah. But it's the balls from Coleman and Joyce. They never go down their own wing. They're always Coleman diagonal and Joyce diagonal. Yeah. And that's either going to the half forward line or full forward line. And it's just, you can see Kilkenny potentially chasing shadows here. Like, because obviously the likes of Hugh Lawler did so well against Wexford. He's marking Conor MacDonald, which is maybe an aerial battle. Kilkenny won't be in any aerial battles probably in the defence.
Cork's forward line match up so well with Kilkenny back line because Kilkenny love these high 50-50 balls in, and Cork never played them because it doesn't match their forward line. They're small, they're fast, they're pacey. So I say the Kilkenny back line are dreading the weekend because it's just going to be constant running, no 50-50 balls. It's going to be ball out in front. And like, as a backline, it's the hardest ball to deal with, definitely. And I know from our point of view as well, you'd love a ball 50-50 between you and your man. It's just not going to happen.
They have one outlet in Seamus Harney, and when things aren't going well, they might shove him in full forward for like 10 minutes, and then it's just high ball in on top of him. To have that, he is their outlet for a high ball. Other than that, it's just all playing the 60-40 balls down into the corners, diagonally, preferably.
Yeah. So if Cadigan potentially does come out and mark TJ, and I think any team playing Kilkenny that doesn't mark TJ, seeing how well Matthew Hanlon has done by man marking him, why let him off when he might hit 1 bloody 12, and why not man mark him? He might get 2 or 3 off you, but he's not destroying you. So what happens if Cadigan then marks TJ? Does Ellis go back in on Colin Fennelly, and is the Cork's centre back position completely open then? Because Cork aren't bringing back an extra defender like Wexford do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a major, I suppose, decision that the Cork management are going to have to make in the next week. Like, to put Cahalane back in there. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're just going to go they're going to put him out there, and they're going to go man for man elsewhere. Ellis will probably find himself maybe floating between Cadigan and the full back line or something like that. There'll probably be only 2 inside anyway.
But they let TJ off?
No, they won't let TJ off. I think they're going to man mark TJ.
Right,
I think they're going to, and with Owen Cadigan.
Okay,
or with somebody, but
then Ellis will have to mark Colin Fennelly probably. So the number 6.
Or if Cahalane is inside there someplace, he'll probably mark him.
Right.
From a strength point of view as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kilkenny have to use Fennelly anyway. They didn't use him against Wexford and Croke Park, and he's lethal, especially in Croke Park with the pace he has. I think the ball going in, the distribution from the back line was nowhere near good enough fully. Like, they were hitting high, hopeless balls, and it just doesn't suit anymore. Like, lads are too clever in the air. They don't go up with their hand, they just block it down, and then they've fast lads around and pick up the sweeping ball.
But that was down to the pressure that the Wexford half forward line and midfielder put them under.
Absolutely.
And going back to Cork, when Clare played Cork, you know, Cadigan and Hurling, they didn't get the quality of ball that they've been getting all year. You know, Clare just smothered them in the midfield and the half forward line especially, you know, and it made it easier for the boys in the full back line. I think that's where you have to get at Cork. You know, if Cork are going to beat you every single day of the week, if that ball is played 60-40 to Cork forward, because they're just so class.
Yeah. So how do Kilkenny hurt Cork then? Like, I mean, do you say to Cork, and you're looking through their team and you say, right, well, potentially full back line is a problem. Would you play TJ, Walter and Colin Fennelly in there and rain ball down on them? You know what I mean? Is that some way of hurting Cork?
They can't win puckouts. Well, they haven't got the forward line anymore to win the puckouts, and they don't go short. Kilkenny don't really use short puckouts, so they will hit the half forward line, but they need ball winners there.
Right.
And that's Walter and TJ. Like, because Adrian Mullen won't, like, he has a decent hand, but I don't think he'd be up to winning enough ball to.
I remember Brick Walsh did well on Coleman, didn't he, in that All-Ireland semi-final? Walter Walsh maybe across on him.
Absolutely, but you have to keep at least one of them on the half-forward line, because I know that'd be such a potent full forward line. You could read the damage, but they wouldn't get ball in. Yeah, they wouldn't win a puck out.
Can we make any case for Kilkenny here at all?
Yeah, no, you can. Look, it's Kilkenny and it's Cody. They're not going to be walked all over, but I just think they're going to be hurt with pace. And we've seen doubts creep into this Kilkenny team where they weren't as direct. They didn't really know what to do for the last few minutes. They were hitting high hopeless balls in, and they haven't got the players to win them that they used to have. So I definitely, it's in favour for Cork the weekend, but you can't write off Kilkenny completely. Definitely.
Yeah, you can't. No. And what about the Nash puckouts, Bugs? You've obviously faced them. I've talked to you about it before on the last show. Are Kilkenny tactically smart enough to do this kind of zonal? I don't remember Kilkenny doing much zonal. They seem to mark the man, whereas you see Clare and Limerick dropping, like I said, half line back, and the hurley immediately comes up. And Waterford did it against Cork too. When you see Nash missing a puck out or one goes over the sideline,
opposition team.
Crowd cheers like it's a pint.
They do, yeah, and it's funny enough like that. But when we played Cork in the Munster final in 2017, was it, or 16, whenever it was, in the guys' first year, Don Maloney's and Jerry's first year, we put way too much emphasis on Nash's puck out the same day, right? And we literally, because we played him in the league, he kept on, now I was playing wing back in the league, kept on hitting the ball in front of the wing forwards, you know, and they had the yard, and their touch was phenomenal, and they won, I'd say, nearly every single puck out, right? So what did we decide to do? We decided, okay, the half forwards drop back, all right, to protect the wing backs, and left one of the cornerbacks free. I think it was Spillane,
yeah.
Left Spillane free. He poked the ball to Spillane. Spillane poked it in way over our heads into the full back line, and they got, I don't know, but I think they got maybe 8 points.
They had a win that day, didn't they?
They had, yeah. Like, so what do you do? Do you stop him poking the balls to the wing forwards? Do you let him go short so they can bypass the half back line? It's a big question, you know. I don't know what the answer is, being honest with you, Willie. Like, you know, you just,
I suppose the analysis that day was that you got it wrong because you lost.
We did get it wrong, like,
you know, and you kind of changed it. What I see Limerick doing is I see them offering up the cornerback. I thought you dropped back too far that day altogether.
That's the thing.
So when the cornerback got it, he just had 10 yards to run on and cook it on. Whereas what Limerick do is they almost goad you into going to the full back line, and they're on him like a shot. Then you know that seems to be the way to do it.
And they're to try force the cornerback to poke the ball from as deep as possible.
Yeah.
So therefore, it'll probably land in the half back line anyway. That's what you want, like. Yeah. So that you hit the nail on the head there, Willie. Like, we were way too far back. You know, the wing forwards was nearly back into midfield while he should have been out further.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that was
in 2013. Nash killed us with the puck outside. Dalo, we were told to pick a man up each in the half forward line, no matter where he went to go with him. You know, but really, I think space is the way to go with that. Because, like, keep your position, because you had lads running across the pitch, and by the time they were just too physically fast for us, you know. So like, if I was marking Harnedy that day and they were cleaned out, by the time he got halfway across the pitch, I'd lost him, and then it was the whole other side of the pitch for him to run into, and Nash was picking them out all day long, you know.
Zonal's the only way to go, because then they're running towards you.
Absolutely,
you're not chasing a lad around. Then
no, you're keeping that position, and even like, Nash is looking up and he's seen you there. Even that alone, like he's seen a Dublin player there, and it will deter him, you know. So it's a lot harder to find. Whereas if they can hit space, they're going to hit it all day long, and they have the pace to beat their man.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get predictions on this one, lads. So Kilkenny are 4-6 outsiders, and Cork are Kilkenny are 4-6 outsiders. Cork are 4-6 favourites. Kilkenny are 13-8 outsiders. So who do we fancy here? I think we're all of the same mind here.
Cork for me.
Yeah, Cork as well, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll go Cork as well, just to keep us all consistent. Okay, great stuff. We'll come back with Paddy Power predictions, and we'll look at the other game. Okay, so Paddy Power predictions. We've only one game left because we did the prediction in the other one, and it's the big one, really, lads. That was just a curtain raiser. We've the minor match we have out of the way. Now let's talk about the real deal. Unfortunately, from Laois' point of view, the betting doesn't really read well for them. Tipperary are 1-80, and Laois are 20-1. It's very, very hard to make any case for Laois in this one, lads. Let's be honest. Like, I mean, Tipperary, we're talking of the cream of the crop. We're talking about Callanan, we're talking about John McGrath, we're talking about Bubbles, we're talking about Jason Ford, we're talking about Noel McGrath. We're talking about players that can beat you in 5 minutes with 2-3 and the game's over. You just hope Laois can stay in it as long as possible, you know, get the crowd, because the great thing from Laois's point of view is the Rebels will support them, is Kilkenny will support them, Laois will support them. Laois could have 50,000 fans shouting them on. Tipperary might have 5, because they probably won't travel too much. Get the crowd behind them. Just give the crowd something to cheer Laois in off the field about at half time. I suppose that's probably the the thing to be hoping for.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking from a Laois point of view, what they've done is absolutely fantastic, and what they've done for hurling in Laois is unbelievable. Like, to see the kids out in the field, but not only that, what they've done for hurling all over the country, you know, to give the underdog the hope is just brilliant, and I'm very, very respectful of that and what they've done. But you know, this, you'd have to see that this is probably a step too far. But from a Laois point of view, I think they have to get a couple of things right. Number one, they have to man mark, you know, and nullify the Tipperary main threats. The likes of the two McGraths, exceptional players, the likes of Bubbles, Seamus Callan. They have to get them right. And like you just said there, Willie, stay in the game for as long as possible. You know, they are the star attraction. They're the main game. You know, if they can stay in it and maybe at the end come within 8 to 10 points of Tipperary, I think that would be a massive achievement. You know, you have to remember they've played 3 games in 15 days. You know, they've been on the beer 2 weeks in a row.
It works. It works.
You know, again, what they've done, and I'm being very, very respectful, you know, massive respect for all those Laois players, for the management, respect for
what
Cheddar
is on
and
the
those
beer
boys.
though? What is on the beer?
Yeah, a few bottles isn't on the beer, Willie. You know that yourself from back in the day. Yeah, with Coppers blowing poor Laois, isn't it?
There is one, yeah.
But look, you'd have to say Tip by 10 points plus.
Yeah. No, look, well, that's where the smart money is. Matthew Whelan, one thing he said after the Dublin game, he says, we came in angry today that the GAA seemed to have forgotten about us and everyone was writing us off, and we went out with a point to prove, and I think we proved that point. So that was their motivation all that week. Now there was a huge feel-good factor. They're getting plaudits from all over the country. Is there potential for that edge to be taken off Laois? Like, we've done the impossible. This is a bridge too far. We're getting a game in Croke Park. Like, you know, is that edge gone off them? That kind of, everybody's against us. We've been written off. Joe McDonagh Cup has been disrespected.
Yeah.
What are they using this week, you know?
I know. Eddie Brennan hates Tip, so that could be hard. But no, it could. It's definitely possible, Willie, because I'd say they're like stars around Laois for the last 2 weeks, you know. And as you said, how do you get the edge? What do you say about Tip that's going to give the lads? I just think they're going to play with that freedom again. If I was Eddie Brennan, I'd nearly start with 2 extra fellas in the back line. Tip are going to go for goals. They are, definitely. They're so good, and they're the biggest goal threat in Ireland of any forward line. They will go for goals early, and if they get them, the game's dead in the water. Like, I'd love to see them keep it within 4 or 5 points by half time, and then you can push a man up and maybe go for it towards the second half. But I think just at the start, goals are the big thing. Like, you know, if you just keep Tip not getting goals at the very start of the game, you've some chance. And he said it's going to be a massive crowd, and all you're hearing about is all the Laois fans going. I'd love to see them be anywhere close coming up to the last 15-20 minutes. I don't think they will be, but as I said, I think I'd start. I know Eddie Brennan might be against his philosophy. He seems to play really good hurling, attacking hurling, but I'd definitely go more defensive towards. Yeah,
well, they played a sweeper. Obviously, John Lennon played against Dublin, right? So it would be crazy not to repeat that.
Absolutely.
Now, what do you do with John Lennon? Because Tipperary's distribution is so good. Like, the good teams make sweepers look a bit silly, right? So Laois don't really like to swarm that middle third like Wexford, where the bad ball going to go in. So, like, I mean, do you say to John Lennon, I want you to sweep, but I only want you to sweep in front of Seamus Callan, because Matthew Whelan might not be as strong a man marker, and do you say the rest of you go man to man? You know, like, because you say if John Lennon does the thing of trying to stay in the middle and go, sure, Tip will just bypass him and just... Do you know what I mean? Could be chasing shadows, because Dublin launched a few balls, and Lennon was very smart that he was at the breaking ball all the time, but Tip don't launch them. Do you know what I mean? So, would you make John Lennon's job that little bit easier by saying, I only want you to sweep in front of where Callan's going?
Yeah, well, I think the game and the role of the sweeper has changed massively, and the way forwards set up nowadays, it's not really just, you know, the traditional 3 inside and the sweeper is just in front of them, you know, or the 3 backs inside and the sweeper just in front of them. Like, forwards are now nearly playing in a straight line, you know, and it's literally everyone just marking each other, and then you have one lad free. You know, he's kind of guessing where the ball is going. Then if a diagonal ball goes in, you know, the forwards probably have the pace to get there before the sweeper. So I think... I read some article there lately where it was about the role of the sweeper being dead, you know, because, you know, coaches and teams have figured out now how to bypass the sweeper, and it's literally forwards coming close together and diagonal ball. Yeah. That to me, that's the way to cut it out.
Diagonal ball is ruining the sweeper.
Definitely.
Where it works for Wexford and it would work for Waterford is that they put so many bodies in the zone where you're trying to give in ball that you can't give in that good ball. So you end up giving hopeful balls. So if you're going to commit to a sweeper, you nearly need to commit to a Wexford Waterford type game, because if you're just playing a sweeper and 5 other orthodox forwards, you know, you're probably you're going to leave Paddy Power as a free man. And he's going to pick out some lovely passes.
Well, that's one thing they can't do.
No.
And we've said it more times, and you've said it in this show as well. Like, you can't leave Paddy Maher free. I don't care, you know, who you're playing against or whatever, but you cannot leave Paddy Maher free. I can see Laois just playing with one in front, one in the inside forward line, you know, and everyone else, you know, retreat now. And like you said there, Willie, putting them under as much pressure as possible so they won't get the good ball in. I think that's the way to go about it. Mick made a great good point. Are they going to go with 2 sweepers? I think that's the talk this week. Maybe they might do that just to stay in the game for as long as they can. And you know, in this situation, it mightn't be a bad idea.
I think they will. I do think they'll play a bit more like Wexford. Even if it's not 2 sweepers, they'll definitely, like you said, will be one forward up on his own maybe, and I think they'll get Chad Dwyer in around Paddy Power, and he's Laois's kind of spiritual leader, the same as if he rattled Paddy, you know, there'd be a huge it would be a great matchup. But here's always the interesting thing with the sweeper, and you say, because forwards, Cha can mark Paddy, but someone else is dictated to mark Cha. So whatever, you don't want Paddy to be free, so Cha has to just go over and mark Paddy. So if Paddy's running to go to a breaking area, Cha follow him, and then a man follows Cha, you'll almost have a Tommy Walsh Lar Corbett there, won't you? Because it's easy to say, oh, you have to go over in the sweeper, but what happens when you do that? You know, like, it turns into a weird situation where you're marking a man but a man's marking you.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Wooly, like, you know, but I think the key thing is to, like, most teams that set up with a sweeper, you're going to put probably your best striker as a sweeper, and probably someone that has legs as well, you know, and you're going to leave probably the worst striker. Yeah, you know, try to leave the worst striker. And that's the way teams are setting up at the moment. Like, but yeah, it's a funny one. It's definitely
even
a weird
as a sweeper, Willie, like, if I was a Laois man, I'd say, like, you don't have to be on the ball all the time. If you're a sweeper and you're covering the right side of the pitch, that the space is there, it allows the left side corner back to step onto the left side of your man and cover that left side of the pitch. You know, like, even something as simple as that, because then the forward doesn't get a run on you.
I get you.
But, like, he just steps out into that side of the pitch. I've got this side covered. So it just allows that defender that extra few yards to get that space for a crossfield ball. And, like, you don't have to be on the ball all the time. Just once the sweeper's aware enough to cover the space.
Right,
so it might help in a way, you know.
Yeah, so you're covering that space. So it is. I think Aaron Dunphy is going to be a big one, because Aaron Dunphy has that kind of blinding pace that Lehan and these lads have. So we saw how much trouble Ronan Maher was in. Remember, the big one was when Cork beat Tipperary in Semple Stadium, when Tip were All-Ireland defending champions, and it was Nash's puckouts, and it was the movement, and it was Luke Meade was running Paddy Maher all over the place, and it was Lehan running Ronan Maher left and right and being hit with puckouts. So Roland, that we know, has got as good a puckout as Nash. That Aaron Dunphy has to be a target, and Aaron Dunphy starts this side of the field, but the puck-out's going the other, and he's just racing Ronan Maher the whole way across, and you know what I mean? Laois can find probably ways of hurting, and Paddy Purcell, like, I mean, he's as good as anybody around. And John Lennon, I think I was reading an interesting comment after the Dublin game, is that we were playing a sweeper, but we weren't playing a sweeper for a defensive reasons. We were playing him as an extra body to attack, which, you know, is the right way a lot of the time, even though he did so much good defensive work. But
that's the way Wexford are looking at it now.
They do look at it, yeah.
That's the way they do look at it.
But the way I look at it with the sweeper, and especially with Lennon, right, because that area is so intense, and there's so many lads around you. How many balls now do we see lads being bottled up, and there's 2 lads around them, and they're just hand passing it kind of over their heads to the man that's inside, and it's the sweeper, and now you're out of trouble. Do you know, where you were bottled up by 2 lads, you're in big trouble, and just this kind of, sometimes there could be throws, kind of a batted down hand pass to a lad inside, and he's gone away then. Now there's 3 Dublin players have committed to that lad, a hand pass comes inside, and now we've a couple of lads over. You know, it does make sense to have a man back there, especially the way forwards are working so hard.
Absolutely. And Moore Park, the only thing with Dublin was Laois forwards put a lot of pressure on the Dublin backs, and the distribution from the back line was shocking. Like, they hit the sweeper so many times, or when he's around the vicinity. Croke Park's going to be a lot more difficult to do that, and especially if they drop an extra man back, the tip forward's going to have a lot more space fully in time to pick out people. So, like, I know if you bring 2 people back, it's going to be congested back there, but they're also going to have a lot more time to pick out passes through the middle of the pitch or down the line, and they mightn't have to go all the way up the pitch, and they can take scores from out the pitch.
Well, what they can
be a lot more.
That's what the point taken from distance was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they have half-backs that can throw the ball over the bar. They can all throw the ball over the bar in the middle of the.
They can. Ronan Maher can as well. But you can play John Lennon as the sweeper, right? So play a forward in midfield like they did. Obviously, Cha started off there. and then we had Willie Dunphy. That was it. He came out there and played there. So whoever's marking Dan McCormack, so it'll probably be Pádraig Delaney. So he's your other sweeper. Okay, let's just let Dan McCormack on. He's not a scorer. You'll hope someone on the half-forward line like Aaron Dunphy maybe, or Enna Lyons will come down and mark him. Then you're leaving Brendan Maher free. Then you have to get someone from the full forward line to come out and Brendan Maher. Like, I do think that there's an opportunity for whoever's marking Dan McCormack to potentially drop off him if he goes too deep and be that second sweeper.
Yeah, I suppose you're making a good point there, Willie. I hadn't thought of that. Like, but the thing about Dan McCormack, he
can't score to Dan McCormack, can he? You get the odd spectacular one, but he misses the easy ones.
He's well able to win a free.
Right.
He dips the head. He's well able to win a free. I'll give him that. And I was actually speaking to Shane Stapleton at the Munster final, and he was saying, "Watch this." You know, I was watching him watching the game in the same box as him. He said, "Watch this. He's winning a free," and Lord and behold, he won a free. Like, you know, whatever it is about the Borough Spy, he's winning frees and all that. Like, but look at, if you're looking at the tip forwards, he's probably the one you'd say, okay, I'll let him have a shot, like, you know.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them are such sharp shooters, but you can't leave him free, only, like, you know, you have to pick him up somewhere or another, or drop someone in the half-back line back. You can't leave anyone free around there, but I suppose if you're to sacrifice it's somewhere, it might be in that wing. Yeah.
It might be him. Now, he does get the odd spectacular one, but he misses easy ones. I think it might be a concentration thing with him or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know. He seems to take lads on and prefer, like, you know, as you said, he doesn't look. You don't see him rarely get the ball in space. He seems to like contact. You know, he takes into contact, and them fellas just like getting frees and then getting out of there. You know, he's a workhorse, so he's sort of taking up the Bonner role of that workhorse in the half forward line, but. Look, he could end up getting 6 points. You know, you can't leave him free because obviously he can shoot. They wouldn't have him there in the half forward line unless he could take a score. You know, but
in fairness to Tipperary, they're on Cork's pretty much level in that they've a match winner in every position. Outside of Dan, the other five are just match winners all over the place. Look, let's be honest. Like, I mean, it could get messy for Laois. You just hope that it wouldn't. The handicap here is 15, lads. So how do you see this one going? We'll get predictions off you.
Yeah, like I said before, a huge result for Laois if they could come within 10 points, but you'd have to see, I'd say, you know, tip 12 to 15 points.
Tipper beaten Clare and Waterford by 15 points, and Cork. Yeah. So, like, you would worry for Laois, really, wouldn't you?
I would. I'd hate to see it. I'd love to see them stay close, but I do think 12 to 15 points would be.
I would just, that's the thing, because it's always a weird one. Like, if it was to get really messy and suddenly a great year turns into, we're not, like, right now you're thinking you're getting closer to the big teams, and then if you were to take a walloping, like, which is nothing, it wouldn't be disastrous maybe, because better teams than Laois have taken wallopings off tip,
absolutely,
but it still puts a terrible dampener on a brilliant year.
Yeah, but look, as you said, no matter how good you are, Willie, going against Tip in Croke Park, like, you've seen them do it to great teams this year, and like, there's no shame. They're smashing the hurling team, you know, so they're going out to give it away.
That's why Laois have to go defensive, lads, don't they? They have to try and frustrate them. Like, there's no doubt about that. They have to really just go and frustrate Tip.
And I think that's the big worry among Laois hurling people. I actually rang Cheddar on Monday, you know, to talking about a different matter there. But he was saying, you know, as well and as great as it was, you know, a hammer in the next day would bring everything back down that slight little bit, you know. So that's the worry among Laois people. You don't want a 20-30 point defeat here, like, you know.
Yeah.
But I can't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm going to go. The Laois will beat the 15 by going defensively. I think that they'll could lose the first half by 3 and the second half by 9 or 10, or something like that. You know what I mean? It'd be whatever. Anyways, that's my. Come on, give me your. Do you think you'll beat the how? Do you think they'll beat the handicap or lose the handicap? Don't let me staring at you and put you off now.
I think 12 to 15 points is the marker.
So they're beating the handicap.
Yeah.
I might go on the other side of it.
Okay,
15.
Folks.
Yeah.
This was the Sunday game comment there.
He's gone. He's not coming back here. Right?
All right, great stuff, lads. Listen, we'll be back on Monday and we'll review the whole weekend as usual. We'll talk to you then. Good luck.